Hello, hello, and happy Sunday to everyone. We are Sunday evening, just getting started here. I know many of my fellow streamers go through the day, but I'm more of a nighttime guy. So we're going to go over a few things from the today's news, and we're going to kind of take our time a little bit today and see where we can get to. So we will be right back. Get the color spill. Go. Okay, that's much better. We don't want to go there. We'll go there. No, we go there. this particular congressperson or whomever with that big ass button on is crazy. Why is he commenting? And well, let's see here. Let's go. Okay, this congressman has got to be out of his mind, and he's sitting there with that big ass button on and saying that he thinks he wants to give congratulations to Markwayne Mullin. He should not vote for that criminal.
And, she walked right into an accidental trap. Did the president approve it? All she had to say is, well, we don't run those things up to the president. But she didn't. She laid it in the president's lap. And so, I think her answer to that question is a lot of why we have the result today and why she's now the former Secretary of Homeland.
Her firing, does that mean that the House should vote to reopen the government, to reopen DHS, to fund DHS back, or do you want to wait and see how Markwayne Mullins' tenure goes?
Well, look, I don't think it's a one-to-one where now that she's gone, it reopens. But I think it's an opening to allow the dialogue to start up again. I think we were nowhere so long as she was there. You're not going to vote for policy and then think that she's going to implement it. So I think now that she's gone.
Okay, so so we've got sound back. Sorry about that. We had a little technical problem, so I had my folks take a listen and fix the sound issue. But let's get back to. I did want to make a comment regarding Kristi Noem, the former Secretary of Department of Homeland Security. Now, the corruption that Representative Moskowitz is talking about is the Department of Homeland Security. Their budget has exploded under this criminal administration. So Kristi Noem received a budget of 250 million American taxpayer dollars to do a campaign of, hey, we're going to catch all the illegal immigrants. And she did a TV campaign. Now, the main star in this campaign was not Morgan Freeman or Denzel Washington. It was Kristi Noem. And she was the one who was featured prominently in these ads. Now, you might want to say, well, gosh, who got that contract? Was it Hollywood? No, it was not Hollywood. It was one of her cronies that actually got the contract. Matter of fact, the company, it was a no-bid contract, and the company was her wife's husband's company. And so she received or her crony received that $250 million contract. Now, here's the kicker. The company was only about 11 days old. Yes, it was incorporated and founded about 11 days before they were awarded the contract. That in itself should help her get a jail cell somewhere. 250 million taxpayer dollars to someone. Now, how much of that did she get? Did her husband's or her chief of staff's husband, they all had lunch together at the Cracker Barrel and say, you know what? Thank you, Kristi, for this $250 million contract. We're going to feature you in all the ads so we don't have to pay any high price movie star. So we'll have to figure out how we can get the money into your account so it won't look like we were on the take and you were doing quid pro quo. I imagine that type of conversation happened. Maybe not in those exact words, but I'm pretty sure something happened like that. And so I think once a new Congress takes over in November, God, I hope it's a new Congress, then they can look into this. But they've got to be strong and start sending people to jail. I mean, they just got to, because this is corruption at the major. Now, and here we have $250 million, and they stopped food stamps, they stopped SNAP, they stopped the student loans. That $250 million could have took care of all the students in the U.S., all their student loans, I'm sure, or at least put a big dent in it. Let me know what your comments are on that, and we'll move forward here.
Gone. I think this provides an opportunity for Democrats and Republicans to get to the table to figure out if there are policies we can agree on and get the department reopened.
Do you still need, I mean, are you going to get anywhere with those policies? Not just the wearing of body cams, but the taking off the masks, the no judicial warrants. Those are things that Democrats had wanted. Republicans were saying no, specifically, excuse me, to those last two. Do those negotiations still include those new measures?
Well, look, I'm not a part of those negotiations. Those are going on in the Senate, obviously, because they don't need our votes in the House. So that's going to be up to the senators. But again, what I would say is we should not abandon our principles or our policies. We should go when we should negotiate and we should argue for them. But I think this provides a fresh opening now to get to the table and reopen this for all the employees at DHS that are now not getting a paycheck because of Kristi Noem. They're suffering because of her, and they're out there doing their job. So let's take this opportunity. Let's try to get a deal, try to reopen DHS, but also try to protect Americans from the stuff that Kristi Noem was doing in Minnesota.
I'm going to borrow your time just for a moment longer. I want to play a little bit of you yesterday questioning Noem on Corey Lewandowski.
You've called Corey Lewandowski a special government employee. I understand what government means. I understand what employee means, okay? But I don't know what makes him special. Now, I want to give you an opportunity to answer on the record to Ms. Kamlager-Dove's question. I know you said it's garbage, and it may be, but I really think you need to say the word no into the record so that you can clear that up.
I think the ridiculousness of this and the tabloids that you are quoting and referencing are insane. And this has been...
So that's a no?
He has an advisor to the Department of Homeland Security, has no decision-making authority. Madam Secretary, do you want to correct it, yes or no? You don't want to correct it? Fine. No decision-making authority,
hold on.
no role in...
Not a problem. According to one of the FEMA administrators that you fired, there is nothing, including contracts, that is brought to you that he hasn't reviewed. In fact, a significant amount of DHS internal routing documents has his signature on it above deputy secretaries. Okay, that former FEMA administrator wasn't fired by you, the secretary. He was fired by Corey. It was Corey that called him into your office. It was Corey that made him to submit to a polygraph test. The $100,000 spending rule that you created that comes to your desk, you're not even sitting at your desk. It's Corey who's sitting there.
There was also reporting, by the way, that Corey Lewandowski fired I think a Coast Guard pilot because when they switched planes, he didn't take Kristi Noem's blanket with them, only to rehire that pilot when nobody else was around to fly the plane. Does Corey Lewandowski stick around?
Well, as you know, I brought her a replacement blankie kind of as a peace offering. I don't know if Corey stays around. Obviously, that's a question for the new Secretary, Markwayne Mullin, and the White House. So I don't know anything about that. I didn't really even want to ask that question, quite frankly, but I was shocked that when my colleague, Sidney Kamlager-Dove, asked that question, that she didn't just say no. Right? Like, I thought I was giving her a layup. Like, hey, you know, your answer was a little muddled. Why don't you just clear up the record? Just say no. And she couldn't even take that easy question. And so, look, again, I think her performances in both the Senate and the House yesterday, you know, the president likes to watch TV. We know he's watching. And I think what he saw, he didn't like.
Good evening from New York. I'm Chris Hayes. Well, the tenure of the worst Secretary of Homeland Security since the agency was formed has come to an end in spectacular and humiliating fashion. Kristi Noem, and we assume her special government friend Corey Lewandowski, are out. Fired today on Truth Social by Donald Trump, quote, "The current Secretary, Kristi Noem, who has served us well and has had numerous and spectacular results, especially on the border, will be moving to be special envoy for the Shield of the Americas," a thing I didn't know existed until today. "Our new security initiative in the Western Hemisphere we are announcing on Saturday in Doral, Florida. I thank Kristi for her service at Homeland." He also announced her replacement. That would be current Oklahoma Senator Markwayne Mullin, the guy who has been all over cable news in the past week for some reason, although we all know who else watches a lot of cable news. He may be no better, but tonight is for reflecting on the end of Kristi Noem's ignominious cabinet career. She made it 14 months, almost exactly as long as Cricket, the dear departed dog she bragged about shooting in her memoir. Kristi Noem's tenure is ending in complete humiliation. You could see from the look on her face this week as she was grilled by members of both parties, she very much looked like someone who knew she was in danger of losing her job. And you could be forgiven for finding it all satisfying, considering just how corrupt and vile DHS has been under Noem's watch. From defending the violence and mass raids and kidnappings that have come to dominate headlines for a year, to posing in the Salvadoran gulag, where she deported hundreds of men with zero process, using them as props as they rotted behind her while the gold Rolex on her wrist glinted in the light, to staging elaborate photo ops of herself armed and on fast boats and joining raids to create social media content, to slandering Renee Good and Alex Preddy, Americans who were shot and killed in broad daylight on camera by her masked agents. A slander that she didn't even have the decency to take back yesterday under questioning from House Judiciary member Jamie Raskin.
You stated the conclusion 2 hours after they were killed that they were domestic terrorists. I wanted to give you an opportunity to correct the record, not just for their family, but for everybody in America who believes in the truth and fairness and honesty.
In every situation, as facts come out, we relay.
You know, your acting ICE director, Todd Lyons, came before Congress. He said he had no knowledge whatsoever that Alex Preddy and Renee Good were domestic terrorists. None. This is your guy. He said that. He admitted that that was wrong. Why won't you admit it?
I'll tell you the investigation's still ongoing, and we'll.
So do you regret speaking before the investigation?
I would say that in those situations,
you regret that?
Chaotic scene on the ground, we relay information to the American people that they're asking for. And as things change, situations change.
People were asking you whether they were domestic terrorists? And you decided that they were before the investigation?
As we learn more, we.
You don't want to say anything to their families?
I did. I said condolences.
For what?
How
about an apology for what you said about their loved ones?
My heart is with them, and we will continue to stand with them as they get a complete investigation into these situations.
All right.
But it appears why all of those things contributed to her termination, and they really did. It wasn't any of those things specifically that actually was the thing that got Noem fired, the straw that broke the camel's proverbial back. It wasn't because she oversaw multiple Americans being shot and killed, not just Renee Good and Alex Preddy, including one we just found out about in Texas many months after the because DHS apparently hid it. And it wasn't because so many people have died under the custody of ICE, the organization that she manages. That includes a Haitian man who died in an Arizona detention center Monday after officials denied him any treatment for a tooth infection for weeks, according to his brother. Noem was not even fired over the $70 million Boeing 737 MAX.
The U.S. envoy Charles Kushner. France has implemented restrictions on direct government access for U.S. envoy Charles Kushner, signaling diplomatic boundaries amid procedural disagreements.
So here is a piece regarding Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff, the two worldwide negotiators for Donald Trump. Now, Kushner, of course, has zero public policy experience and background. Okay, so he makes deals throughout the world with Arabs and, you know, for money, and God knows what he's giving them. Plus, he's Benjamin Netanyahu sycophant as well. So why he is the person to try to have settle peace in the Middle East is just beyond me and half the world. Steve Witkoff is Trump's golf buddy. Has no background in international relations or peace deals. Yet he's going around Ukraine, Gaza, Venezuela, and trying to be the peacemaker. This guy is a total criminal. So let's listen a little bit to what this piece has to say about the Kushner family under siege. And they probably put themselves in a position to where, you know, the Arabs don't forget.
This decision followed Kushner's failure to attend a formal summons issued by France's foreign minister, highlighting protocol expectations. The dispute originated from the politically charged killing of far-right activist Quentin Duranc in Lyon, drawing international commentary. France's foreign minister characterized the absence as demonstrating a fundamental misunderstanding of basic ambassadorial responsibilities and decorum. These remarks reflect Paris' growing frustration regarding perceived inappropriate U.S. intervention into sovereign domestic legal matters. The controversy specifically centers around a statement issued by the U.S. State Department's Counterterrorism Bureau on the incident. That statement controversially linked radical leftism to Duranc's death, a characterization firmly rejected by French government officials. President Macron's administration had previously cautioned against exploiting the tragedy politically ahead of upcoming presidential elections. Charles Kushner, who is Ivanka Trump's father-in-law, maintains particularly close personal and professional ties to U.S. President Donald Trump. Kushner previously encountered friction after corresponding directly with Macron regarding perceived shortcomings in addressing anti-Semitism domestically. This development coincides with sharply deteriorating U.S. relations with the European Union over critical transatlantic trade agreement. On February 23, EU lawmakers.
So, just so everyone's understanding and clear, Charles Kushner is Jared Kushner's father, and he was went to prison for fraud, embezzlement, money laundering, etc. It's a long list. He tried to set up I think his brother with a prostitute, so that to bribe the brother so that he would not go to court and be a witness against him. Wow. And so this is the person that Trump made the ambassador to France this year. Yes, the ambassador to France, actually last year. And France now is having a hard time with this guy, and they're ready to kick him out.
Has formally halted implementation of the deal, citing urgent need for clarification following a pivotal U.S. Supreme Court ruling. Washington's Supreme Court decision invalidated numerous tariffs imposed by President Donald Trump during his tenure. Following this judicial outcome, Trump cautioned nations playing games with tariff policies that they risked facing substantially higher import duties. These diplomatic frictions emerged during a particularly sensitive geopolitical juncture, with US-Iran tensions remaining significantly elevated. Emerging fractures within NATO alliances could hinder cohesive Western messaging regarding potential Middle East military escalation. France has consistently pursued a more balanced diplomatic posture toward the Middle East compared to Washington's characteristically hardline rhetoric. Such policy divergences may intensify should Washington pursue military action against Tehran, testing alliance cohesion. These tensions carry potential implications for Europe's positions on sanctions renewal or military coordination concerning Iran specifically. Notably, on February 13th, an IRGC advisor explicitly warned that Iran's response to any U.S. strike would extend beyond regional boundaries. Hamid Reza assets belonging to Trump administration figures in the UAE and elsewhere remained vulnerable. He specifically cautioned, if Iran faces attack, it will target Jared Kushner's personal assets in the UAE, emphasizing personal stakes. Kushner has played a leading role in ongoing US-Iran discussions regarding nuclear development and ballistic missile programs. Trump announced Thursday his intention to formally designate son-in-law Kushner as a special peace envoy for these negotiations. UAE and Qatari investments elevated Kushner to billionaire status in 2025. His affinity partners currently manages $4.8 billion in Gulf sovereign funds. Moghadam argued such targeted responses would personally ruin key figures, fundamentally altering Washington's security calculus.
So, wow, they're looking at what this guy has done to them. And, it makes no sense. Well, it makes sense because he has done a lot of harm to a lot of people. He's a slumlord, basically. his apartments and Trump's apartments were all slums in New York City throughout the years. You know, there's a whole lot more. There's so much news. Tomorrow I will have a special live show, and we'll go over the corruption in the warehousing purchases by the Department of Homeland Security, and that will blow your mind. I tell you, that will blow your mind. The properties are being purchased by the Department of Homeland Security, and they are paying 30 to 70% more than what the warehouses are worth. And again, a no bid contract. And I'll explain to you how this affects your city, or could affect your city, because it's definitely because once the government takes over a property, they don't have to pay the local property taxes anymore. So if you've got a Walmart that the government takes over, and that Walmart puts in, you know, $15 million a year in property taxes for your community, poof, that's gone. So we'll talk a little bit more about that at tomorrow's show. So again, thank you, and let's check in on our chat and see who's in the room here. And so we definitely take all questions, comments. So by all means, again, thank you for turning on DTV.